Okay.
Hey guys, welcome to the Sunday International Big Book Workshop. I'm Dan B. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Sobriety date 1st Feb 21. This workshop is facilitated by Brother Campbell H. This study relies on you listening, but please we pray that you have your big book in hand and follow along with a pen, pencil or highlighter and make any notes if you need to and pause. Write down any questions and we'll take them at the end of the meeting. We will keep everybody muted during the workshop except for facilitators. Any inappropriate behaviour will not be tolerated and you will be removed by one of the co-hosts. This meeting is being recorded. The audio portion only is being recorded and only of the facilitators. The recording will be shut down at the end of the workshop before taking any questions in order to preserve your anonymity. So have a really great meeting, everybody. And how we open this meeting is with a step 3 prayer found on page 63. Please join me. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self so that I better do thy will. Take away my difficulties that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Amen.
Amen,
Thank you.
brother.
Over to you then, Campbell.
All right. Happy Sunday, everybody, and welcome to the Keystone Sunday International Big Book Meeting. My name is Campbell. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Grateful to see everybody today, and thanks for coming. And I hope somebody gets something out of this. Today, we'll be discussing step 12, working with others, starting on page 89, and it goes to 103. So I don't know how far I'll be able to get today. It may be a two-part thing, but we'll see how it goes. But I got some valuable suggestions that we learned from step 12. You know, the thing about step 12, it says having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps. We tried to carry this message to other alcoholics or to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So when we look at step 12, the first part is probably the greatest promise, one of the best promises to be found in the big book. Having had a spiritual awakening. No doubt about it. The spiritual awakening, it solves our alcohol problem. But also it works in all other affairs because through the course of taking these steps, somewhere in between 1 and 12, we gain the spiritual awakening. So we have a whole new way of living and thinking. We have a new attitude and outlook upon life. And it's a beautiful thing. Wow. Well, y'all know I tried for 40 plus years trying to solve my own alcohol problem. But I didn't get no results till the alcohol beat me into some sense and said, fool, you need to take the 12 steps instead of trying to do them yourself. Because I thought I could stop my own self from drinking. I thought I had all the darn answers. But we all know how that turned out. This stuff simply didn't work, no matter how hard. So then the promises, one of the promises of step 12, right? We work the first 11 steps and we should be guaranteed to have this spiritual awakening. And to keep step 12 going in our lives, we simply live in step 11, right? And then we work in step 12 anyway. It becomes gradually it becomes a working part of the mind. So some people may ask, well, what is this spiritual awakening they're talking about, right? But they share this on page 5, 6, or 7 in the spiritual appendix, where it reads, a personality change sufficient to recover from alcoholism. And that's true. We gain a personality change. Wow, changes that I never thought I could make on my own. But for all of us that's had this spiritual awakening, right, we all have certain things in common. That is, today we're able to feel, we can believe and do the things we could never do before on our own strength, without aid, Now, if that's the criteria of a spiritual awakening, then I believe I must have had some kind of spiritual awakening because the desire to drink left, my whole attitude left, and people were seeing these changes in me way before I ever realized it. I just realized one day that, oh, shoot, I'm not sitting here, want to take a drink of alcohol. Then sobriety started, right? And it just got easier as time went on. So that's some kind of an awakening, spiritual awakening, no doubt about it. So today, I can have true love for people. I remember my drinking day. I tell you, I love you, right? But it didn't mean nothing. Even, we even tell our wives, our friends, our family these things. But when we battle with alcoholism, we just saying it. And sometimes probably not even meaning it. But once we have this awakening, we can realize what love is, no doubt about it. And sometimes we alcoholics, we can mix up love and sex and stuff like that. But today, upon taking these steps, we realize it doesn't have anything to do with love. Love is compassion, tolerance, patience, and goodwill towards my fellow man. Today, I can feel all of that. Where it was not like that before, because we was rooted in selfishness and self-centeredness, and everything had to be done our way. So before AA, I didn't give a crap less what I cared about you. I'm gonna be honest with you. All thing I cared about is what I could get out of you, or if I can use you in some kind of way to get me another drink. And this was repeated over and over again. But soon after the spiritual awakening, we began to learn to believe things that I could never believe before. See, and when I was growing up, I was being preached to about this God that was the God that I believed in then had me scared to death because he was always going to burn me up. And I didn't like that God. But then when I got old enough to take a drink of alcohol, I could block that God out. And then at some point, the alcoholism made me feel that I was God. Because, the book tells us we had to stop playing God. It didn't work, right? So 40 years later, I was still trying to play God. And I was still a drunkard, still drinking. I suffer from this allergy of the body. I suffer from this malady of the mind. So, today is quite different. I believe God is loving and kind. One reason why God reached down from the heights above and he rescued the drunk alcoholic like me. Shoot, I didn't even deserve to live, but he reached down and he woke me up, man. Wow. And then the big book talks about on page 88, it says we alcoholics are undisciplined. And so true. So, but I do believe that God does discipline us. No doubt about it. Once we gain this spiritual awakening and we have a relationship with God, when we tend to step out of line, he will discipline us in some type of way. So, in the day, doing things we couldn't do before, we will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. No doubt about it. So, Brother Dan, we're going to start on page 89, and you're going to read that first paragraph for us.
Yeah, sure. Chapter 7, Working with Others, page 89. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intense working with other alcoholics. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. Cool?
Go on to the next one, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, cool.
Bright spot of our life. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Life will take a new meaning. To watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives.
Okay, yeah, thank you, brother. No doubt about it. Practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. That brings me to mind the second part of step 12, right? So it says we try to carry this message. A lot of people get the message confused, right? I know I was confused for over 3 decades in the fellowship. People were carrying the message, right? But it wasn't the message I wanted to hear because it didn't help me. They talk about, well, Kim, just don't, if you don't pour it down your throat, you can't get drunk. let it go and let God. Meeting makers make it. Come to as many meetings as you can. Do 90 and 90. Stay away from people, places, and things. That was the message I was getting, right? Ain't none of that crap work for me. Because I couldn't stay away from myself.
Fake it till you
Self
make
was,
it.
yeah, self was going me everywhere I went. So, but then the message, what we got to do with the message, right? In the big book, it don't tell us a message, or it don't tell us some message, but it's this message to others. When it comes to mention this message, is pretty simple. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message, not some old twisted message I was getting, right? So we carry the message. Today we had a message of Alcoholics Anonymous. We can show people how to recover from this thing that we suffer from so greatly. So that's the only message we carry today. We simply help people. And a beautiful part about that, it keeps us from going back to our old ways, Helping others is the foundation stone of our recovery. No doubt about it. So back to the paragraph. Now, this whole chapter is going to contain suggestions for how to go about helping others. Notice it mentions suggestions, no doubt about it. There's a lot of suggestions piled up in step 12. So that's why it may take 2 parts to finish this whole chapter, because I would like to go through the whole thing. The first suggestion it comes up with, it says, carry this message to other alcoholics. You can help when no one else can. So these two are together. The first suggestion, 1 and 2, says carry the message of the 12 steps from the book, the big AA book we got here. And like I said, the message we carry comes out of the book, not our own opinion. Because I ain't seen in the big book yet where it said, what's your opinion, Bill? In the first 100 men and women, they ain't put that part in this book. So, well, what you think about this? They simply showed us precisely how they did it. And when we 12-step through this by another alcoholic whose problem had been solved as a result of taking these steps, then we carry the same message straight out the big book, no doubt about it. So the third suggestion, it goes on to mention, remember that they are very ill. Yes, we can remember that because we can relate to how ill we were. So we can share our experience with another alcoholic and hopefully and prayerfully to help them to get the message. I know my sponsor, right, when he first reached out to me, he was looking for somebody to help. And at the very same time, I was looking for somebody to sponsor me. So he messaged me in a meeting well over 3 years ago, and we hooked up, and we simply went through the steps. We went through line by line all the way. And I had that spiritual awakening somewhere through the steps. And now, man, we do a big book study together. God has blessed me to do this study, and then I have my regular meetings I do every day. And God has given us the power today to help other people. And that's what we do. That's a blessing of this thing. So then it says, life will take on new meaning, to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, and to see a fellowship grow about you, grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss, no doubt about it. So we can have relationship with people today that we share this program with. And the beautiful part about it, we ain't looking to use and abuse nobody. We simply let to help each other. When one alcoholic may be feeling down or depressed or something, we can simply reach out. We can reach out to others, because talking to another alcoholic, it really solves all our problems, but nothing else will. We simply will pray about it, and if we have to, we get on the phone. We can call our friends, our sponsor, but we necessarily don't have to call my sponsor. I very seldom have to call my sponsor if I'm having a problem. Because first of all, this spiritual awakening allows me to have a relationship with power. But then there are other alcoholics I talk to, and we can share our experience, strength, and hope. We can share what we're going through, and it makes the days better. It really does. Having that communication, first communication with the power that's greater than us, and we can communicate with human beings today, right? And it's being in peace and serenity instead of fighting against myself and fighting another human being. That's quite a difference. I'm telling you, in my life, it is quite a difference. So then the paragraph mentions frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. No doubt about it. And the promise in this part, it's a promise right here. So when we work with others, our life will have meaning, right? And then we can see other people recover. You will see them help others. And you will not be lonely, and neither will they. You will create true companionship, a friendship, and you will be gladly to help even more people. Wow, that's a beautiful thing. Me tell me I can help somebody today without having a motive. Because I'm gonna tell you, my drinking career, when I help you, but I had a motive for you. You can best believe that. But thank God, man, this program is just so awesome. Now, when the book talks about the suggestion, a suggestion. Now, a suggestion is an idea, right? It's a proposal or it's a guideline. The book gives us a guideline. And when it comes to step 12, when it talks about suggestion, the idea from step 12 actually started back in step 2. But we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. It is confirmed in step 12 because we took the steps in between 2 and 12 and it confirms it. So now today we done had that awakening. We simply reach out and help others. There is no doubt about it. I love this program. I'm just gonna tell you. So, Brother Dan, you can finish that bottom paragraph. Perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Carrying on, guys. Perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They will be only too glad to assist you. Don't start out as an evangelist or reformer. Unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You'll be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers and doctors are competent and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate, never criticize. To be helpful is our only aim.
Okay, thank you, brother. No doubt about it. It says, you can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. Well, back then, that's where they could go to these people back then. You know, back in this time when this book was produced, they don't have the resources that we have today to simply reach out to other alcoholics. So we had to go. Remember that night Bill in that Mayflower Hotel got on that darn phone finally, and he made phone calls until he got in touch with somebody. You know, he got in touch with somebody in between. I forget her name. Henry, was it Henry? I forget her name. Anyway, I got it wrote down. But anyway, today we have different means. We can find people on Zoom today, right? And we talk to them, and we can offer to take them through the 12 steps. If we acquainted with any doctors or ministers or whatever, like in my neighborhood, most of the preachers know what I do. Every day they know that I recover from alcoholism and drug addiction, and they know my Zoom code. If they have anybody in their congregations, or I even know some doctors and nurses in my little town, because everybody know me in this town. So, and I have people that run rehab centers. They even got my information. So anytime anybody needs to call or get in touch with me, I'm available. I try to make myself available as much as I can. But they do have the information. So we can reach out to people now. Matter of fact, I sent some of these talks to my friend. He was at an event last week, the one that run the rehab center down in Montgomery, Alabama. So he passes along to the people that live in that house down there. So, you know, it's a great thing, carrying this message. Today we can forward this message. We got YouTube, we got all this stuff, Zoom, all this good stuff. So, and then reaching out to a newcomer, like friends of mine, they put notes in the chats and stuff, and we get phone numbers, we exchange numbers, and we simply move out and move on, and we help a lot of people. So, but then an important thing in this next part, it says, Don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. Usually a lot of prejudice exists. You will be handicapped if you arouse it. In other words, it's telling us here to don't be a spiritual fanatic, right? People are often prejudiced, and we learned about how we can be prejudiced against this thing back in we agnostic. So if we come in too enthusiastic with them in the very beginning about spiritual or religious things, it might destroy an opportunity that that might enable us, might block them off from accepting our help. The spiritual part is going to come pretty early because this is a spiritual program. But in the beginning, we want to get acquainted with them. We want to find out a little bit about their drinking career, a little bit about the family, a little bit about the religious leaning. If they open to spiritual things, then we can start immediately. Two of the people I help now, both of them are Christians, so they fit right in. So we can talk about the spiritual thing right in the beginning. Now here, where it says, because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. And so true. Here is a promise that I consider in the big book, but it is a promise. See, we, as recovered alcoholics, we are uniquely qualified to help others who had the same problems as we had, and we have overcome this problem. So, we have a power ourselves. The big book talks about the power of God goes deep, and then we have been given power to help others. See, we are a blessing to other people because we done overcome the alcohol problem. The big book tells us our problem has been removed. So helping others, what is that? One alcoholic, I tell you what, one alcoholic helping another is a beautiful thing. But see, the alcoholic who is armed with the facts about himself can help another alcoholic learn about the illness that we suffer from being a real alcoholic. And that's a very important point. So then it goes on to say, cooperate, never criticize. To be helpful is our only aim. So true. So our only goal is to be helpful to these people. We don't talk down to another alcoholic. We simply reach out and try to help them any way we can. We can even help their families, right? Because they may want to talk, they may want to learn about the illness that their spouses may be suffering from, or their children, or any member of their family. And then it said, when you discover a prospect, that's on the next page, I think. So then we'll read that paragraph, that little short paragraph, when you discover a prospect. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Page 90, just over. When you discover a prospect for Alcoholics Anonymous, find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste your time to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity. This advice is given for his family also. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person.
Okay, yeah, no doubt. So one thing, listen at this story and learn about him some. Yes, no doubt. So, and that's why it says, find out all you can about him. So, but if he does not want to stop drinking, don't waste your time trying to persuade him. You may spoil a later opportunity. So if they don't want to stop, we don't push them to stop. We don't get the hammer and beat them in the head. You need to stop. You need to stop. We don't do that. But you know what? We don't give up on them entirely. Maybe it'll help them later. So if they're simply not ready, we can't make them be ready. That's an example back on the big book. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, on page 35. I'm going to share this right here on page 35. This is dealing with my man Jim, right? And it says, we told him what we knew of alcoholism and the answer we had found. He made a beginning. Means he did step 1, 2, and 3, right? So his family was reassembled, and he began to work as a salesman for the business he had lost through drinking. All went well for a time, but he failed to enlarge his spiritual life. To his consternation, he found himself drunk a half a dozen times in in rapid succession, a half a dozen times right quick. But you know what? They didn't give up on him. It says on each of these occasions, we worked with him, reviewing carefully what had happened. Then he could see the light. He agreed he was a real alcoholic in a serious condition. So somebody relapsed at your sponsor. We don't give up on them like that. We continue to try to work with them for a period of time. Eventually, if they really want it bad enough, they'll see. And then they may accept the suggestions in this program. But, you know, like I said, if they don't want to stop, we're not going to beat them upside the head with no hammer. We ain't got to cuss them out. But we ain't got to tell them, well, you better do this or you better do that. No, we simply lay out the program of action. But then it goes on to say, this advice is given for his family also. Yeah, they should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. Now, it can be pretty hard for a family to be patient because, you know, most families, they want the alcoholic gone out of their way because they caught wreaking too much havoc in the home. I know in my case, in my experience, when was that, 1991, I had been wreaking havoc in my family for years. So come 91, my wife, they want to be gone. So I took off. I said, shoot, y'all slowing up my darn drinking. But, you know, alcoholism had me like that. I took off and I stayed gone for years. But eventually God brought everything back together. So I've been back with my family the last 2.5 years. But, you know, we just don't beat these people on the head. So, and then we talk about how sick we are. We can explain the degrade nature of alcoholism, just as Dr. Sickworth did for Bill Wilson in that hospital right there. He told Bill what he suffered from, and he taught him the grade nature of this disease. And we know Sickworth talked about unless an entire psychic change has occurred, you know, we're doomed. We're doomed to an alcoholic death, or we can accept spiritual help. Accepting the steps in this program is what helped me, and it commenced to solve my alcoholic problem. And okay, Brother Dan, is there any indication?
If there is any indication, yeah, of course. Sorry. Well, for just the one paragraph or straight down?
Yeah, that one short paragraph.
Yeah, cool. If there is any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. Get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place, to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned.
Okay, thank you, brother. No doubt. Now, this is a beautiful suggestion, right? When it talks about learning enough about him, learning enough about his family, you may even have a conversation with the wife. Back then, the wives were very involved. But some wives used to go to meetings, and wives was helping other wives about us alcoholics. So, and then it comes to mind, it makes the mention that you need this information to put yourself in his place. So we want to turn the tables a little bit to see how we would want to be approached. If we can accept how we would like to be approached, then we can make the same approach with them. And the approach that we make to them is simply the 12 steps. And we can go from there. If they say they are willing to go through the list to get it, then they're ready to take certain steps, and we can proceed right along. So, you know, and like I said, carry this message is the most important part. And we as recovered alcoholics, we now we have a job, you know, to do God's will. And what God's will is for us today, we simply carry the message. We help other alcoholics. We try to live out these principles to the best of our ability. You know, the steps is a set of guided principles. And when it talks about to practice these principles in all our affairs, it may ask you, well, what are these principles, right? Some people used to like to argue about principles. I remember that back in some of the meetings that I was going to. I didn't put my camera off. I'm sorry. So, we can hear arguments about this, right, for hours at a time. Just like the difference, right? Talking about the difference between a defect and a shortcoming and a wrong, right? These are all the same things. There are no differences. Bill just uses different words. So in how it works, Bill said, no one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress and not spiritual perfection. So, no doubt. So then, Brother Dan, we'll go with where it says, sometimes it is wise.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is, yeah. Sometimes it is wise to wait till he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he is in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't deal with him when he is very drunk, unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. Wait for the end of the spree, or at least for a lucid interval. Then let his family or friend ask him if he wants to quit for good and if he would go to an extreme to do it, any extreme, beg your pardon. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. You should be described to him as one of a fellowship who, as part of their own recovery, try to help others and who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you.
Okay, brother. Thank you much.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Now, it says sometimes it is wise to wait till he goes on a binge, right? That's so true. Because when we go on another binge, it might knock a little bit of sense in them. Well, he said, well, I tried hard, but it didn't work. So I went out and I relapsed again. But then when you feel it coming out their binge, they feeling bad, they feeling depressed, but they probably still baffled about why did I do it again? But man, another part of the book, he went to the darn bar and thought you could put that dog on milk, eat him a ham sandwich, and put milk in his whiskey, right? A few hours later, you beating on the bar, wondering what did I do this time? What could have happened? See, that's the insidious insanity that precedes that drink, right? So I remember coming off my last binge, right? The last binge I had was actually in 2019, July. I ended up on the ambulance again for about the 15th time, and I ended up waking up in a psych ward for about the 12th or 13th time after that last binge. I was looking for somebody to help me, right? But it still took me 6 more months before I really accepted help. So I can relate to that. So actually, when they're getting over their binge, maybe they'll see they can't do this alone. You got to have some help. That was my experience. That's why I brought the part up. So, but one thing important, the suggestion here, don't approach them with talking about the 12 steps when they're still under the influence. Even back in the doctor's opinion, it makes mention that it is imperative that the brain be clear, because if you're trying to talk to an intoxicated person after another binge, they ain't gonna listen no way. And I know from experience, because I wouldn't listen no way, because the only thing was on my mind was going to get me another drink when you quit talking to me. Let me up out of here so I can go. But we simply not gonna listen. No, we factuated on another drink. So, and then during the same period, another suggestion, it says always, unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. So we can always be willing to help the family. But we don't get in between the squabbles, right? If the police need to be called or something, we can call them. But instead of us trying to get in between and break up a dispute, no, because that's too dangerous anyway. And especially today, we can call the police. Back then there was fights and stuff going on in these homes, right? I think Bill even had somebody hang himself up there one time, but it was always somebody breaking furniture or something going on. So we don't get in the middle of these domestic disputes, no matter what. So, and then it says another suggestion I have wrote down. It says, we can approach them after that binge, right? With the 12 steps when they are sober and mentally alert. Now, we all know alcoholism covers the mental part because, it's where the problem centers at in our mind. And if we done got intoxicated and somebody approaches, we ain't gonna have time. We not gonna pay no attention. I know I was not gonna pay attention to nobody when I was under the influence. So, but then the paragraph brings out, you ask him if he wants to quit for good and if he would go to any extreme to do so. If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. Yes, recovered. That means our alcohol problem has been solved. So we can explain a little bit about them. And our recovery, this is talking about permanent recovery right here. And if they want to be permanently recovered, they can take the steps, but you should be described to him as one of a fellowship who, as part of their own recovery, try to help others, and who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. And if they are willing to go to any length to get over it, tell them you will go to any length to help them. And so true, that's what we do. In my experience with sponsorship here over the past couple of years, I've had people relapse. I didn't get mad at them. I just simply worked a little harder. Just carrying the message, sharing my spirit, strength, and hope. And they came back, and they're still here today. So thank God for that. It's just a message that we carry, but I have to make it very important to them. Their recovery must come with from a relationship with God, and not me, because I can't solve nobody's problem. I can simply present the information to them and take them through it. No, I'm not God. I couldn't even solve my own problems. So I'm gonna solve somebody else's problem. You know what I'm saying? But that's the way it is. So then, Brother Dan, it says, if he does not want to see you, we can start right there.
Yeah, cool.
Uh-huh.
If he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him.
Mm-hmm.
Neither should the family hysterically plead with him to do anything, nor should they tell him much about you. They should wait for the end of his next drinking bout. You might place this book where he can see it in the interval. Here, no specific rules can be given. The family must decide these things, but urge them not to be over anxious, for that might spoil matters.
Okay, thank you, brother. No doubt about it. Never force ourselves upon anyone. It's totally up to them. If we force ourselves on another person, it might run them away. They may be like, oh, you're pushing me. So we don't want to run nobody in a corner, right? But we leave the door open. Well, anytime you're ready to start, just let me know. I have another new guy I just started working with, and I understand his job schedule is pretty rough, right? So we've had I think we had 4 meetings so far, but we hadn't met in over a week. That's fine. We can call each other on the phone. We can message each other. And whenever we get a chance, we'll continue back to the steps, because he has to travel overseas sometime. Matter of fact, he said his job sends us down here to Alabama sometime, but I don't tell him every day, but you need to meet with me. No, that ain't my job to make you meet with me. You got my hand is out there. Whenever you're ready, we'll finish the thing. But the important part, he's staying sober today, behind our first couple of meetings, because he got a copy of the big book, and he studies his big book, and he has questions for me. I can point them out in the big book. I love helping people, man. I really do. I can't explain. It's just a feeling. Oh man. A lot of us understand this, right? Because I remember the days, Lord, I couldn't even help myself. So, but no, we don't force them. If possible, give them a copy of the big book. Some people don't give them your copy, but I ain't finna give them my copy. Matter of fact, I got 3 full big books now with so many notes, they wouldn't understand the stuff I got wrote down in these books. So I can offer to give them one, which I've gave people a lot of big books, but today we can get this stuff in electronics. We can get it on our phone. I have 2 apps on my phone. One is called a Big Book. It's in blue letters. And then I got another one called Everything AA. And I suggest to my people, download this app, and it's got everything, all right? So when you can't get to your big book, you got it right there on your phone. I take big books it's gonna be in my car everywhere I go. And then it's on my phone, it's on my tablets, it's on my iPad. And wherever I'm at, if I can run into an alcoholic who need help, I'm right there to help them on the spot, and ask them, are they willing to go through any lengths to get this thing if they want it? So in other words, we got plenty of availability today. Wasn't like it was, before this book was written, because they would do like a chapter at a time, and then they would have to mail it out or have somebody to deliver it to them. But today we had a whole book, and it's a blessing. And then technology is something serious, man. So hey, even we got big book recordings like these book meetings here, they be recorded. We can go to YouTube, you can listen to the whole book, all kind of different stuff out there. History of Alcoholics Anonymous. Matter of fact, I'm going through a documentary now on YouTube about building his life. It's pretty cool too, no doubt about it. So then it goes on to say, the family must decide these things, because it talks about we have no specific rule to be given here. So the family must decide these things. So, but urge them not to be over anxious, for that might spoil matters. So we do not interfere with the family in their decision. If the family can really see that, yes, my husband or my wife or my son or my daughter in my house, they probably need Alcoholics Anonymous. We don't force them, and that'll be the decision within the family whether they want to accept our help or not. So we don't get in the middle of them affairs either. It's simply me. If you want help, help is available. And then it goes on to say about them being over anxious, right? We try to talk to the family and ask them to try to be calm and try to be rational. But some families will get all boogered up. They be wanting people out of their lives. But then a lot of them want to hold on to us, no doubt. We some good people when we sober, right? We just turned to what is his name? Mr. Hyde, ain't that fool name? They just go crazy when he turned from Jekyll to Mr. Hyde. We just turn to that other side when we get baffled with alcoholism, but then there's some things we can tell the family, right? They don't have to do it. But today we have Al-Anon, Alateen, and also they can come to open AA meetings and just listen. And then maybe they can decide for themselves. It may help their spouse to realize this grave condition. And if the spouse want to keep their family, well, the alcoholic had to see for himself. I have these two symptoms. I got this allergy. I got this malady. And then you invite the family in. It can be a beautiful thing, because the whole family, when an alcoholic starts recovery, the whole family is in recovery, because we done damaged them so bad that they suffer just like we suffer. They have character defects. They have resentment. They have most of the traits we have. They have a spiritual malady, like we all human beings. We all suffer from a spiritual malady. But with this program being outlined the way it is, if we have a set of principles that we can live by 24 hours a day. And if we're doing these things, if we're living by the principles of this program, our family when my family sees it, maybe they'll realize, well, I need something too. I want to live the principles that you are living by. Then it all works out pretty darn good. So then it goes on, Brother Dan, usually the family should not try to tell.
Yeah, cool. On page 91. Usually the family should not try to tell your story. When possible, avoid meeting a man through his family. Approach through a doctor or an institution is a better bet. If your man needs hospitalization, he should have it, but not forcibly unless he is violent. Let the doctor, if he will, tell him he has something in the way of a solution.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, brother. This will be a quick one. It says, avoid meeting a man through his family. Yes, we don't want to meet nobody through their family. We want to meet the person directly. And then we can include or talk to the family. Because if we meet a man through his family, he's going to feel like the family pushed him, and now they done got this clown to come in here and try to push me. We alcoholic, we would reject that. I know. Shoot, somebody would approach my wife years ago, talking about some Alcoholics Anonymous. Oh, I know I'd have rejected it. I said, "What this fool doing talking to you about me? He don't know nothing about me." That's how we alcoholics is, but you know, we have these principles today to live by. So, but then now it goes on to talk about if your man needs hospitalization, he should have it, but not forcibly unless he is violent. Let the doctor, if he will, tell him he has something in the way of a solution. No doubt. So if treatment is required, suggested. This is only a suggestion. But if he's too violent, then yes, something had to be done. I remember Florida incorporated what you call a Baker Act way back in 1930. What was it? I got it wrote down. September. I can't remember. I got so many notes in my book I can't even see the date. But they instituted in Florida what we call the Baker Act. Means if one of us was too violent, the authorities could come in and then put us in treatment, right? But that probably made a lot of jokers have resentment at the moment. So they had to get through it anyway. But yeah, they instituted that. So people are being violent. The alcoholics do need to be separated because we know how we act. We hurt people, man. We do damage. And we don't want nobody to get hurt just because somebody's suffering from alcoholism. So we do the best we can. But sometimes it may be best to wait till the doctor telling that he has something in way of a solution, right? Today, most doctors, they're going to recommend Alcoholics Anonymous. Or if you're an addict, they may recommend Narcotics Anonymous. But it's on a recommendation or a suggestion. It's totally up to the alcoholic to decide. What do you want to do? Do you want to live or do you want to die? I know in my instance, I decided I finally wanted to live because I wanted to die a whole lot of days during my drinking career. But I got too scared to do it. But then the alcohol beat me down so bad, it opened the brain waves up. And that's when I no longer wanted to deal with this stuff. And 42 years of drinking was enough, especially if you've been through what I've been through. We all have been through, not only me, but I just did it for a lot longer than a lot of other people. My goal today is I don't want nobody in the world to ever suffer 42 years of alcoholism. Mine started as a teenager in high school. Oh, Lord, it went through all my military career, and it went through my post-military career. And it's nothing nice. So, okay, Dan, let me see where we at. Used it a family, I think. Is that where we at?
Wedding man is better.
No, we got to come down. Is it
See your man
alone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, here we go.
See your man alone, if possible, after first engage in general conversation. After a while, turn to talk to some phase of drinking. Tell him enough about your drinking habits, symptoms, and experiences to encourage him to speak of himself. If he wishes to talk, let him do so. You will thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. If he is not communicative even, give him a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit, but say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. If he is in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you, being careful not to moralize or lecture. If his mood is light, tell him humorous stories of your escapades. Get him to tell some of his. Okay. All right. Thank you, Brother Dan. I did skip a little part, right? But I'm going to run back through it. It said, when your man is better, the doctor might suggest a visit from you, right? So under these conditions, your prospect will see he is under no pressure. So don't approach him with the 12 steps as a representative of his family. We need to meet them alone whenever possible. And then we start our first meeting with general conversation. And then we exchange stories, right?
It tells us to tell him enough about your drinking habits and symptoms and experiences to encourage him to speak of himself. If he wishes to talk, let him do so, right? And you will thus get a better idea of how you ought to proceed. If he is not communicating, give him a sketch of your drinking career up to the time you quit. But say nothing for the moment of how that was accomplished. So then when he says approach him, let him tell you a little bit about him. So we actively listen to him. We concentrate on learning how we can help this person. There's no doubt. That's what we do. And then it says, if he is not communicated, give him a sketch of your drinking career. So we give him glimpses of our past. And see, today the past is our greatest asset. So we can use our past and maybe it'll hit home to the alcoholic, and they might can see, well, yeah, I was like that too. So we look for similarities and not the differences. And if he is in a serious mood, dwell on the troubles liquor has caused you, being careful not to moralize or lecture. No doubt about it. So then a suggestion here would be tell him how frustrated you were to learn that you were suffering from a grave illness called alcoholism. No doubt about it. At this point, we want to focus on the problem. We know the problem is we can't get sober. We can't stay sober without something got power greater than ourselves. And you know, it's going to take that power because we suffer from lack of power. That's our dilemma. We suffer from a brain obsession, right? Which is called a malady. At this point, they simply have no defense against the first drink. So we can, at least we can start with them right here. And then one more suggestion, And you can always point back to read the chapter called More About Alcoholism, right? And use the same approach to describe how you suffer from it and how you overcame it. And normally that's some of the, after the doctor's opinion, I go through the preface with people, of course. Then I go through the doctors, I go through the forwards with them, like very early, right off the bat. I usually like to talk about these things after we done shared. I done shared a little bit about my past and how alcoholism had me. But then it's more about alcoholism. I really like to hit that home. And we can come to a great understanding. I know it worked for me. When somebody approached me and they told me that I suffered from this darn allergy and I suffer from this malady, this chapter here really opened my eyes to see it. So with that, we'll stop right here for the day. We got a couple pages in, so we'll finish the rest of it next week, probably be a little faster next week. But anyway, thank you, Brother Dan, for always being there to help me out. And I thank all of you for being here today. God bless. And we'll get ready to close it out.
Cool.
All right. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday. Thank you very much. Top stuff. There's a audio link to the YouTube channel where we have this will be recorded, will be sent up to and previous recordings, so you can go back through those. Contributions to the PayPal to help Zoom meetings, and then also Keystone information. But also make sure you message me if you need any more information. So thanks a lot again, Kemble. Let's wrap it up with the step 3 prayer.
Yeah.
God, I offer myself to thee, to do with me, to build with me, as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, so that I better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Cheers, guys.
All right.
Amen.
All right.